Now, this doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I was writing something on something interesting going on in the psyche of the collective British public just last night that I plan on publishing soon, which is all part of, I think, a similar narrative. And this is that the number of British people who think the dangers of global warming have been trumped up has soared by 50% in 4 years. Research shows 1 in 4 voters believe fears about climate change are over-egged, with the cost of net zero policies to blame. Let's speak to Ross Clark about this, columnist at The Sun. Also, author of Not Zero. I mean, Ross, it's an interesting thing that's happening, I think, in the psyche of the British public in general. Certain events that have happened, and I put net zero at the heart of this, and I was talking in this article I'm writing about the fact that this beatification of Greta Thunberg, this sort of strange schoolgirl going on strike who was invited to the UN and world leaders all wanted their photos taken with her, and we all kind of thought, that's weird, isn't it? She's just an odd kid from Sweden. Why are they turning her into some sort of oracle? You know, the scales have fallen from our eyes because there she is of a Marxist fringe trying to break into Gaza like the lunatic she always was. But then we had COVID and this whole we're following the science, stay in your home. And the narrative kept changing and moving around like a bar of soap in the shower. And where we've ended up now, it seems to me, and of course, you know, the icing on the cake is a man is now a woman. And where we've ended up is the population just saying these people flagrantly lie to us. And I think as a result, the sort of, you know, the religion of net zero is beginning to crumble.
Yeah, well, for years we've been fed this great big fib that net zero is not going to just make us greener, it's going to make us richer as well. It's all going to cut our heating bills. Ed Miliband, let's not forget, promised to cut our heating bills by £300 a year by turning the grid green. And we were told at the same time is going to create all these many thousands of well-paid green jobs, and Britain going early was going to reap the most benefits. And it's all a lie, frankly, and people are beginning to see through it. We have some of the highest energy bills in the world. As for the green jobs, well, we've certainly helped create green jobs, but most of them are in China. You know, here's just a little stat which might sort of help explain how successful Britain has been in getting green jobs. Britain has about 1% of the world's population, but we've got about 0.3% of the, you know, jobs in wind and solar energy. So, you know, we're not reaping the benefits, but at the same time we are increasing our household bills, and we are absolutely now devastating what remains of British industry, heavy industry. Jim Ratcliffe just yesterday was saying, you know, he's not going to invest a single penny more in Britain because of the windfall taxes on oil and gas. Where's he going to invest? In the US instead, which has, you know, unashamedly followed a policy of energy self-sufficiency. Now, I think for years, when the government sort of comforted themselves on that, we had these polls and people were asked, do you support net zero? And when it was just put in that simple, fuzzy terms, people said, yes, I do support net zero, because it sounded vaguely virtuous. But then when the full implications of net zero are coming home, what it means for us personally in terms of our bills, our ability to do things like drive a car or fly away on a summer holiday, people change their minds very, very rapidly. And now we've got 4 years ago, by the way, 51% of people said they were happy to see petrol and diesel cars banned. Now, according to this Times poll, that's now down to 30%. Just 6% of people are prepared to see higher domestic energy bills to pay for net zero. You know, it is absolutely collapsing, and Ed Miliband is so behind the curve on this. It's extraordinary.
I think there's something else going on as well, isn't there? And I think they sort of overdid the hyperbole and the alarmism. You know, I kind of feel it's a bit like boy who cried wolf syndrome when they kept saying the Earth's on fire. It is the climate catastrophe, they kept saying. We started naming storms. Oh, here comes Storm Norman, everyone. You got to be careful. And guess what? All you got was a bit of newspaper fluttering in the wind. And then, of course, they've now got this new emergency siren on the phone for extreme weather events. And you're like, what? Because it's drizzling and the dinner ladies need to get the kids in from the playground. I think they sort of, you know, the madness and also the capture of academia when all these people are supposed to be the brightest and the best, who receive huge grants to do their research, get dragged into patent anti-scientific nonsense like the gender debate. And the public are sitting there going, we don't know who to trust anymore. They're telling us the world's on fire. I'm looking out the window. It isn't. They're telling me a man is a woman. I'm pretty sure that's not true. And so I think all of these things, and I think it's created such a dangerous situation where no one can anymore see the wood from the trees, where people spot conspiracy lurking in the shadows everywhere, where we live in this post-truth world. And if a government did want to honestly and effectively communicate with its people, that sort of sacred bond of trust has been forever broken.
Yeah, well, let's be fair on the climate stuff. I mean, there is good data to say that the Earth is warming. You know, it's about a 1 Celsius warmer on average than it was in the middle of the last century. In Britain, the climate's got a bit wetter as well, about 10% extra rainfall. We also get more sunshine and we get less wind and less extreme wind as well. But it's when we get to this link with extreme weather that the whole thing tends to fall apart, and we get all sorts of lazy claims to be made. And I've lost count of the number of times when we've had a storm and people sort of tell us, government ministers and so on tell us, oh, we're going to see more of this sort of weather in future due to climate change, when the real world data shows exactly the opposite. There is a downward trend in the prevalence of extreme storms in Britain, and we're actually seeing, you know, less damage from the wind, not more damage. You know, the climate's very, very interesting. It's changing in all sorts of different ways, but the sort of idea that it's all, you know, cataclysm is just so, you know, it's just removed from reality, and I think people are beginning to see through that.
Yeah, it's like this year apparently was the hottest summer on records, but I remember like a couple of years ago when it peaked 40 degrees. It didn't do that this year, and you're kind of like, eh? Ross, thank you ever so much. It's always great catching up with you. Ross is a fantastic journalist and an awesome columnist for The Sun newspaper.